All right, so you can get those mics hot. Make sure that those doors are closed when he comes back in. What's that? I don't think it's going to that Facebook page. All right, guys, we'll start the show in a matter of moments. We're dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Philip Andrew Hamilton in person in studio on the I Love CVille show. We'll catch up with Philip on a Friday. Vanessa Parkhill, hello. Before the 4th of July. This is his second rodeo on the show, Phillips. He is the GOP nominee for the 57th District of the Virginia House of Delegates, Philip Andrew Hamilton. We're excited to chat with him today on the program. If you have any questions for Philip, put it in the feed. If you have any... as long as they're respectful, we'll relay just about anything on air. And we're going to spend about half an hour with the candidate for the 57th District in the Virginia House of Delegates. Get you here. We'll get cracking in a matter of moments. Give the show a like and a share anywhere you're watching. Welcome fine folks in Northern Virginia to the broadcast. We've got folks in Richmond watching the program as we speak. We love when Richmond watches the show. This is a gentleman that is putting in the work. The general is what? November, what's the general? Is it the 8th?
November 2nd.
November what?
2nd.
2nd, November 2nd. So we've still got a little ways away, but it's really not that far away if you think about it. Judah Wigcower, we're feeling pretty good right here. We can rock and roll when you're ready, J-Dubs.
You want me to look over there?
Me and the camera's good.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
You want to just look at me? That's good.
Yeah.
And he's going to count. Good Friday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller. Welcome to the I Love CVille show. Thank you for joining us on the Friday before Independence Day. We love the 4th of July weekend. Please remember what it stands for in your backyard cookouts, your backyard barbecues, when you're having a cold one or two, sitting poolside in Independence Day celebration and the significance of Independence Day for this country. We're going to spend a half an hour with a gentleman that's, I think, needs no introduction, but we're going to spend 30 minutes getting to know him, I should say. His second rodeo on the I Love CVille network. Philip Andrew Hamilton is the Republican nominee for the 57th District of the Virginia House of Delegates. This gentleman is putting in the work. Judah Wigcower is the director. Let's start with the studio camera first, and then the two-shot on Philip and I. Philip, ¿qué pasa? How are you?
I'm doing well, and as of June 4th of this year, I became the official Republican nominee. Dan Moy, the chairman of the Charlottesville GOP, he actually opened a call. So there was a week before June 4th where another Republican could have stood up and decided to run and put their skin in the game, but no one else did, so I won by default.
Very nice. Vanessa Parkhill's watching. She said, I enjoyed Philip's last interview on this network. Great guest. on the lead into Independence Day weekend. Thank you, Vanessa Parkhill. If you have any questions for Philip, please put it in the feed. You have McLean, Arlington, Richmond, Martinsville, Crozet, Lexington, and Williamsburg watching you on the program. All right, so introduce yourself again to everybody. So if they're seeing you for the first time.
Sure. So again, my name is Philip Andrew Hamilton, and I have lived in Virginia for over 20 years. Proud historian. I'm the owner of HamiltonHistoricalRecords.com, which I started in 2018. I own a legal services business, and I'm actually the general manager for Goal Enterprise. And I've been in politics for many years. The first campaign I actually worked on was for a Democrat, Steve Shannon, a former House of Delegates member. I was 16 years old, and I was getting government hours as a volunteer. And that was my introduction into politics. And I was actually part of the Young Democrats, and I was the president of the Young Democrats my senior year. But we had a debate. I decided to join the Republican Party since I aligned more with Republican values. And ever since I've been 18 years old, I've considered myself to be a Republican.
Okay. A Republican since 18. One of the things that struck me about our last interview was we both agreed that the Republican Party needed to consider a rebranding. Maybe
Absolutely.
The huffing of new life, younger perspective into a party that many in the country see as older, very white, very stodgy. Mm-hmm. Safe to say? All that?
Country Club. Hey, we do have to rebrand. And there are minorities who are joining the party. I actually endorsed Winsome Earl Sears for lieutenant governor.
Yeah.
And she won the nomination. And hopefully she will win alongside with me this November. And we'll be working on getting a rally with Glenn Youngkin, Winsome Sears, and Jason Mieres in the Charlottesville area later this summer.
So what do you think of Glenn Youngkin as the Republican nominee for Virginia and the governor's race? You were very vocal throughout the Republican convention for governor. Very vocal, I would say.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yes, that certainly was.
Okay. Your thoughts on Youngkin and your thoughts on how things played out. Pete Snyder finished in second. A lot of your vocal was allocated and geared to Pete's camp.
Yeah, well, I actually endorsed Sergio de la Pena.
Right.
And he did not win, but I hope he runs for office as a congressman or another capacity. And after his defeat, actually went to his home in Burke with his whole family and celebrated with them after the fact. But they were very gracious, just like Pete Snyder and other candidates. They went to Glenn Youngkin's rally in Richmond the day after they found out that Glenn Youngkin was indeed the governor nominee, and they're all throwing their weight behind him. And I'm doing the same. I'm all in for Glenn. I think he's a much better choice than Terry McAuliffe. And interesting thing is, I actually met Terry McAuliffe back in 2019 when he was doing his book tour called for his book Beyond Charlottesville.
Terry McAuliffe, a professional politician?
He indeed is.
Terry McAuliffe has got the machine behind him, and the machine is just not the Democratic Party. It's donors of all shapes and sizes, major corporations down to individuals. He is a steamboat that it's going to be difficult to veer off course. Youngkin has a chance.
He does.
How do you characterize the chance Youngkin has in beating McAuliffe in this race?
Well, as we all know, Glenn Youngkin worked for the Carlyle Group.
Yeah.
He is a multimillionaire.
Yep. Funded a lot of his campaign to this point out of his own pockets.
Absolutely. And he quit his job just to run for governor.
Right.
So we know he has a lot of money on pocket. And he actually just released his first television ad. So he beat Terry McAuliffe to releasing the first television ad.
Okay. What'd you think of the ad?
I thought it was good. And another thing I'll mention too is that Glenn Youngkin was doing a rally in Loudoun County just a couple of days ago at the Loudoun County School Board building, and he gave a very rousing speech against critical race theory.
Okay, and now this is a perfect segue into your campaign. You've been very vocal against critical race theory. set the stage for everybody.
Well, I like to call it critical racist theory because we're teaching racism to our children and we're forcing our teachers to abide by this ridiculous standard. I've actually reached out to the source. I've spoken to students in Loudoun County and in other schools who are minorities. And they say, we disagree with this. It makes us uncomfortable to have teachers say, we're oppressed while our white friends are privileged. And I think it's wrong to be teaching that type of curriculum in the classroom. We should be focusing on critical thinking and education and learning about American history. And yes, there was a lot of bad that occurred. But let's not repeat the bad things of the past. Let's not reintroduce racism in our schools and have one race or other races preferred over another one. That is not the words of Martin Luther King Jr., to judge men and women by their character rather than by the color of their skin.
How do you think, how has the critical race theory become more prevalent in your platform and campaign? It certainly has gained momentum of late with your campaign. Another topic that's gained momentum with your campaign and platform is transgender students and their access or which bathroom they choose to use as transgender students. Is this what you're hearing from potential voters and constituents, that you need to make this more vocal and a louder aspect of what you're doing?
Yes, there's certainly supporters of mine who are concerned about what's going on. I was just reading an article just recently. There was a woman who identifies as a man, and she was topless, and the police didn't do anything about that. But
in the bathroom?
No, in a public space.
Okay.
Not in a bathroom,
okay.
In a public space. But people can choose which gender identity. I have no problem with that. But where I have issue with is when we have the education system who's coming in and saying, if you do not use a certain pronoun that someone identifies with, that not just the teachers, but the students themselves can be punished for doing that. I mean, when you and I went to school, we just got to identify folks with whichever way we wanted to.
When I went to school, if I stepped out of line, the Sisters of Mercy would whack me with a ruler. Literally, they would hit me with a ruler. I was often getting my behind skinned by some kind of closest school instrument by the nuns at the Catholic school I went to. So why have we gotten to this point with the critical race theory then? The critical race theory is everywhere in public schools at this point in the Commonwealth. How have we gotten to this point, do you think?
Well, it just passed in the legislature this February.
Right.
So a lot of parents didn't know about it. And it took them a few months to realize what's happening in the schools, seeing their homework assignments and what the teachers are discussing and watching the live streams of, because during the pandemic, parents have been able to stay at home with their parents and see what's going on, see what the teachers are teaching. And it's really roused a lot of individuals up. In Loudoun County, there's over 200 people at that rally. We're going to do another rally here in Albemarle County, and I'm going to be outspoken at the July 8th school board meeting saying that we should not be teaching this in our schools, period. And in fact, if I get elected, I will ban critical race theory from the state, just like Florida and other states have done.
Where's McAuliffe stand on this?
Well, McAuliffe says that critical race theory is a conspiracy theory perpetrated by Donald Trump, and that Glenn Youngkin and the Down ticket is just feeding into this conspiracy theory. It is not a conspiracy theory. It is indeed teaching racism. And those of you out there who want evidence, I will send you documents that I got from Loudoun County students and other students, and I'd be happy to send it to you. Email to Philip H for VA delegate @gmail.com. You can send your request there.
And those documents were the conversations you had with students that were saying, this is the perspective we've had from learning this?
Oh, it's actual documents that teachers have given to them with the curriculum inside of it. So there's proof.
So your opponent is Sally Hudson.
Yes.
She's the incumbent. Sally watches this show. We'll see if we can broker a forum with you and Sally Hudson. She's been on a handful of times. Where's your opponent stand with this?
Well, I'm sure Sally Hudson will not be speaking out and calling for its ban. She'll be joining the Democratic Party and keeping it in place. So that's the side that she represents.
Okay.
Which is really going to be a disadvantage because she's going to lose a lot of support from parents by supporting it.
How would you characterize her campaign so far to this point? It's been rather quiet.
It has been.
Is that fair?
It absolutely has been. Last month, I went to a farmer's market and I was meeting with voters with congressional candidate Kimberly Lowe, who's running in the 5th District. She's actually running in a primary next year against Bob Good. But she's been very vocal, supporting my campaign, door knocking with me, and that's why.
She's a Republican challenging Good?
Yes, she's a Republican.
And Good is going to run again in the 5th?
He is going to run again,
okay,
yes.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
And so we went to the farmer's market and got to shake hands with voters and speak with them. And Sally Hudson was actually at the same farmer's market, but she must have showed up either before I got there or after because I totally missed her. But I haven't heard of Sally Hudson going out, doing rallies and hosting like in-person events. She's been doing a lot of virtual forums. But I think we need to show our voters that there's a sense of normalcy now. The mask mandates have been lifted. You can go to the bar and drink. There's no curfew anymore. And people are having house parties. There are going to be many barbecues this weekend for the July 4th weekend. I'm actually having a barbecue at my own place. So, again, if folks want to show up, message me about that.
I like it. I like it.
But Sally Hudson, she needs to do more. She needs to be engaged with her voters. She needs to go to events in person and stop this fear-mongering that the Democrats have been pushing, especially at the University of Virginia. She's not going to piss off her own employer because they're the ones who've been very Draculan with the mask mandate, saying that if you live in a dorm, you can only take off your mask if you're sleeping.
Well, I will say this. The university has pivoted its policy and that now it's, for the fall, students are going to be required to show proof of vaccination. And that
I disagree with that.
Outside of that, it's business as usual at the University of Virginia. You disagree with the proof of vax?
I disagree with making it mandatory that all students do it. Why is it that the students have to do it, but then the administration doesn't? All
right, I'll play devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show.
Sure.
Okay? When students go to public school, they're required to have certain vaccinations. Chickenpox, polio come to mind. Why is that any different?
Because
the pandemic vaccination, COVID.
Well, this is still an experimental vaccine. We don't know what the long-term effects are. That's the issue I have with the COVID-19 vaccines compared to other ones that have been around for decades. So mandating it right away, I think, is very problematic. And there are multiple parents suing. For example, Virginia Tech, they're being sued for this mandatory vaccine mandate.
They are.
There's one of my supporters is planning on suing the University of Virginia. I got her in touch with an attorney, and they're filing suit against that university. And the parents see that we shouldn't be mandating these things right away until we know what these long-term effects are. Sure, maybe in 2025, sure, let's go ahead and do that vaccine. But let's have more studies done first.
Interesting. Biggest difference between you and Sally Hudson?
I'm the freedom candidate. I support giving more liberty for all Virginians. I'm the one who's going out on a whim and saying, let's keep bars and nightclubs open until 5 a.m. She's never said anything about that. And I will stand up for youth. I will stand up for adults as well. I've actually cheered the legalization of marijuana yesterday. I think it's a great move. But there's many issues with that.
For example?
Well, they say you can only grow 4 plants in your home. I'd say, why not do 25? If you live with a large family, I'm one of 7 children.
So you say 4 plants per each kid?
I mean, basically, you could do something like that, right?
So you say 4 plants per each person in the household?
That's another alternative, yeah.
Okay.
Instead of for the household in general.
If you're elected you would go a long way in determining and crafting the policy for marijuana moving forward. For example,
Absolutely.
2024, the year 2024 is when retail marijuana, go into a dispensary, you can buy it over the counter. There's one that just opened on the downtown mall. We had the owner, David, on the show. He owns Skooma on the mall. He has to wait till 2024 now before he gets approval, potentially, and he has to get a marijuana business license before he could even do that. Do you think that should happen now, retail cannabis?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's gonna create jobs.
Okay.
Dispensary jobs. It's
Yeah.
gonna create jobs for farmers.
Cultivation jobs, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's gonna help us recover from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay. So why do you think Richmond chose 2024 as the threshold when yesterday you could have an ounce on your person or less, I can have an ounce on my person or less, and we can each have 4 plants of cannabis in our backyard? It seems to me, from the layman's perspective, you have the inside knowledge here, but it seems from the layman's perspective, by delaying the retail cannabis to 2024, they've only strengthened the black market. They've
Absolutely.
made the black market even stronger now because there's now every Tom, Dick, and Harry can grow, and every Tom, Dick, and Harry, once they grow their 4 plants, they're not going to get popped by anybody if they sell the flower off those 4 plants. That's the black market. The revenue is not going to the Commonwealth.
Yeah, and it's stalling the revenue from entering the Commonwealth. Money that we can use for the police, for our schools, and many other institutions within the state.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we need to push in the General Assembly having these businesses open sooner rather than later. So if I get elected, I will definitely be pushing for that. And I have many individuals I know who would like to get into that business.
Well, why do you think they delayed to 2024?
Well, the reason why is it's a presidential year. The Democrats want to say,
Is that what you think?
That's absolutely what I think. They want to say, now you can buy marijuana recreationally, and go ahead and vote for our party because we're the ones who gave this to you.
Interesting.
And that's if Joe Biden makes it to the reelection. We'll see.
I'll leave that topic alone. We'll stay Commonwealth and local. You've had some very vocal statements on the statues
I
in the
have.
city of Charlottesville. You want to go down there?
Sure. Well, on June 7th,
Yeah,
I was speaking at the Charlottesville City Council meeting.
right. I actually saw you virtually speaking.
And what I advocated for is not just preserving the existing monuments, but adding monuments to the Union, to the United States Colored Troops. One of my supporters, her great-grandfather, Alexander Turner, was a former Virginia slave who escaped and joined the Union and fought for United States Colored Troops. Why not honor him? Why not honor the many other black Union soldiers who fought? But the city council completely disregarded my request. In fact, the 45 other individuals who are demanding that the statues be not just removed, but to be melted down and destroyed, which is illegal under current state law, they did not speak anything about erecting monuments to any black Americans who fought for the Union. I think that's a travesty. If we're going to talk about Black Lives Matter and say we're advancing black people and advocating for a criminal justice reform so that way they are not targeted by police and promoting black businesses and things like that, we should also promote black history. And that's something the Marxist left has not been doing.
So you say your take is we promote black history by erecting statues that honor said history.
Absolutely. And there's a temporary exhibit in front of the Albemarle Courthouse, just right here from the studio here, and it's dedicated to the former slaves who were part of the slave trade. I believe we should have a permanent monument there. We have to talk about the good and the bad in our history and educate future generations about it.
Why was council so flippant to your idea and your perspective? Because you said they didn't even consider it.
Well, I actually emailed one of the council members, Snook.
Lloyd Snook, right down the hall in
Yes.
the studio. Yeah.
And Lloyd Snook,
He watches this show routinely.
absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
And-
just letting you know.
Thank you. So what he said is that we don't want any Civil War monuments, period. His argument is that there wasn't much action in the Civil War. There wasn't any major battles here. But I concur that's not the narrative that we should be pushing. We should be promoting the Civil War history because there's several historical markers, including the one dedicated to the General Custer House, which is just less than a mile from my own home. General Custer, when he occupied Charlottesville, stayed in that home for the month of March of 1865. There's the Woolen Mills. There's some Civil War history out there. The Union had accidentally burnt down one of the mills out there. UVA was used as a hospital, especially the Rotunda,
Sure.
and other buildings. And
This guy's a historian. He knows his history, you can tell.
yeah,
This is what he does for a living.
that's right. And I enjoy it too.
I know you do. I know you do. What's the last? This is a question that's come in. This question's come in from Short Pump. This is coming in from. I'm going to butcher your last name. It's Jennifer. Jennifer, I'm sorry. I'm going to butcher your last name, so I won't say it. Who's the last Republican, and when was the last Republican to win the 57th? Genuine question from her.
Well, I'll tell you, the last Republican to run was back in 2005.
So
it's
the
been
last Republic. So was that it? Was Toscano? Toscano was in office then.
Yeah, he was in office at that
Okay.
time.
Okay. Who was that?
It was he's still part of the Charlottesville GOP right now.
Okay.
And his name escaped me right now, but
Sure.
yeah.
Okay. So 2005 that was the last Republican to run. He obviously lost to Toscano, David Toscano,
Yes, yeah.
who's a legend in Richmond. Do you know the last one to win and hold the office? Genuine question for me. I don't know that either.
Oh, it was more than 16 years ago, so it's been a while.
So it's very similar to Charlottesville City Council. Rob Schilling, the last one to serve on council. Before that, it's anyone's guess.
because it was over 20 years ago
Over
since Rob
20 years
Schilling
ago.
won. Yeah.
Over 20 years ago, since a Republican has served on council in Charlottesville. We've had independents win. We've had Republicans run. But over 20 years since a Republican has served on council. So this is the question. I'll throw it out loud here. You're Republican. You're running for delegate.
Yes.
It's an uphill battle. I respect your hustle and your chutzpah and your commitment and the willingness you have of taking a chance and putting yourself out there. It is not easy running for public office. Not easy at all. Why do it? Why do it?
I believe I can change things for better. 25% of the residents of Charlottesville live under the poverty level. Virginia can do better. I want to institute programs such as lowering taxes, property tax. Let's make housing more affordable for individuals. Let's lower the sales tax. Let's make grocery shopping more affordable for families and for new parents and others.
If we lower the property tax and the sales tax, playing devil's advocate for the sake of a show, lowering taxes is something that I'm very passionate about. I'm a libertarian. Where's the revenue going to come from for the municipality?
Well, when we legalize, we've already legalized marijuana, but when we legalize the businesses, that's going to generate revenue for us.
That's incremental tax revenue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What
So-
else you got?
Well, what we have to do is we need to encourage other large corporations to come into the state. We have a lot of contractors in Northern Virginia, as Loudoun County and Fairfax and other ones are known for. Why don't we encourage a lot of these big tech companies to move out of California and to come into Virginia? I mean, we have a large exodus of people, and it's been so large that California is losing a congressional district. Why not take some of those Bay Area tech companies and encourage them, give them tax breaks so that way they can come here, create jobs here in Virginia, and get them out of California?
Marquise Johnson watching right now. Marquise, we love when you watch the show. He says, I'm smoking right now. Marquise Johnson is watching in Hampton, Virginia, Charlottesville resident, former Charlottesville resident, now in Hampton. He says, what would you change about Charlottesville and your district if you're elected?
Well, one thing that I would do is I would pass a law that would allow for the state of Virginia to sue any city or town that removes historical monuments. I strongly believe in this issue because
You would pass a law that allows the Commonwealth of Virginia to sue individual town, county, and city municipalities.
That's correct. And the reason being is because we have to stand for our history. As we know, the UVA Board of Visitors, last September, they voted to remove the George Rogers Clark Memorial.
That's true.
And now they're trying to, there's folks who are talking about removing the Thomas Jefferson monuments that are out here and other statues that we have. Where does it end?
Mayor Nikia Walker has come on this set. She's been on this show. She's been on this show one time. And the one time she said she was on this show, she said she would eradicate Thomas Jefferson from the University of Virginia and eradicate Thomas Jefferson from Charlottesville itself.
And that's exactly what I'm fighting against, because I think that's wrong. We should honor our founding fathers. I'm a relative of George Mason IV. And I tell you, he's rolling around in his grave right now with everything that's going on here in Virginia.
What do you think he's saying?
Well, I'm sure he supports my fight. He supports, I'm fighting for free speech. I'm fighting for historical preservation. I'm fighting for the freedom of religion. These are all things that Republicans stand for. But some Republicans are stronger than others on this issue. Unfortunately, there's some Republicans who say, this is a losing battle. Let's back off. We're not going to talk about this anymore. And I say, no. We have to stand now before we lose our history. So that's why I'm taking this stand. And other ways that we can make this life better for folks here is, one, let's modify food stamps. We have, a lot of folks who are on welfare. Why don't we allow it so that they can use food stamps to obtain vitamins?
Yeah, this one, I like this idea. You presented this last time you were on the show.
Yes.
This idea I'm all about. Courtney, Roxanne is giving you some props right now. Stephen Dolan is giving you props right now. You have most of the cities all over the Commonwealth watching you here. The food stamp concept.
Yes, let's create more choice. There's folks who are on food stamps who can't buy hot foods. Let's expand it. You can get hot foods, you can get cold foods, you can get vitamins.
Can you use food stamps to buy cigarettes or beer?
No, and we should keep it that way.
Okay, so food stamps cannot be used for cigarettes or alcohol purchase.
Correct.
But food stamps cannot currently be used to purchase vitamins.
Correct.
Is that accurate? So food stamps are limited to what?
Just certain cold foods and preserved foods.
Okay, so you're saying the most unhealthy foods out there.
Exactly.
Okay, so you want to say food stamps, use it to get vitamins and other nutrition-rich foods.
Including fresh foods.
Including fresh foods. This is not a bad idea. Have you called resistance on this?
No, when I door knock,
that seems like
individuals
a great
support
idea.
it.
Yeah, that seems like a great idea. That seems like a great idea.
Yeah.
All right, give me another really one of your really good ideas.
Well, I want to increase funding for the animal law portion of the Office of the Attorney General for Virginia. And the reason why I want to do that is we need to clamp down on animal cruelty.
Okay.
I've had birds, I've had parakeets, I've had dogs, I've had cats, and we need to make sure that we're treating these animals correctly. And I've had a lot of folks who said, this is great that you have it on your flyer. See, I have it right here. Increasing animal law enforcement. Right on my brochure.
Okay, so what exactly does that mean? And here, I'll put it in perspective. Eric LaFontaine is watching. He owns with his beautiful wife the Ben Barbecue in downtown Scottsville. He says you can use SNAP at the farmer's market. So using SNAP at the farmer's market, he says check with the local farmer's market. All the ones I sold at, you can buy fresh local food with SNAP. So he's passing that along to you about food stamps and being able to get fresh produce and fresh goods at farmers markets with SNAP. So I'll throw this to you here. You have some good ideas. I will say this. You have some good ideas. This is just me, my opinion, independent guy, okay? The value of the incumbent, regardless of who the incumbent is, but the name recognition that comes with being the incumbent is tough to overcome. You would agree with that, okay?
Always is.
Okay, always is. Okay, not unique to this race, always is. You also have tough sledding in a area district that is a Democratic stranglehold, and you're very Republican with your ideology, right?
Absolutely.
That's fair. Okay. Sally strategically, know Sally fairly well on the show, Sally Hudson, is clearly being quiet. Just like if you've noticed now, Mayor Nikia Walker, who's running for re-election, is not offering poetry on her Facebook posts over the last few months, or doing bombastic Facebook Live videos over the last few months. She's focused on winning an election. So she wants the DL, she's playing the DL strategy.
She's hoping people will forget.
That's what she's doing.
Yeah.
Would we not say? That's what she's doing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. So how are you going to overcome these elements? From a political science standpoint, it would seem like this is a very uphill race for you.
Well, I'm the anti-establishment candidate. I'm a populist. I truly believe in term limits. That's something else that I've been repeating door to door.
I believe in term limits too. Jesus, I believe in term limits.
Yeah. On the federal side with the convention of states,
Yeah.
to the state side, we amend the Constitution. Let's term limit the House of Delegates, state senator, school board, board of supervisors.
Board of Supervisors, dear God.
Yeah.
Ann Malik.
And you're running for that.
Yeah, and I'm running for Board of Supervisors. Ann Malik, 4 terms on the Board of Supervisors. That is a travesty. Diantha McKeel, this is going to be her 3rd term. Ned Galloway, this is going to be his 2nd term. The 3 openings that are up for election this November, they're running unopposed.
Wow.
It is a travesty. I'm all for term limits.
Well, hey, fist bump for that.
Keep talking to me about some of the good ideas. And I mean, because you're really going to have to rock the boat here to get a W.
Oh, absolutely.
So what else you got?
Well, another thing I want to mention about term limits is that I have independents, I have libertarians, and of course Republicans supporting it, but also some moderate Democrats too. It's a winning message, and the thing is, my supporters, including Frank, he's tried to come to Sally Hudson's office, and her staff has just completely blown him off. Refuses to speak about a convention of states or term limits. Period. So she doesn't care.
Why do you think that is?
Well, when you're in power, why would you want to limit your own power?
Okay, so that's what you think it is. It's power, wanting to stay in power.
Mm-hmm. And this is not just a Democrat issue. This is a Republican issue, too.
Oh, yeah. It's
Mitch
any
McConnell's
party.
been in there for too long.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi's been there for too
Yeah.
long.
This is term limits seem like a no freaking brainer to me as well. Why not run as an independent? Why did you not run as an independent?
Well, I tried that.
Yeah.
I did start off running as an independent. And I had Howie Morgan. He actually worked on Howie Lynn's campaign. He did a lot of data, research for me before I decided to run, and said, this is a very Democratic-leaning district. And he said, you'd have a better chance of winning if you run as an independent. And I did try that. But the local GOP said that they're not going to openly support me if I run as independent. The UVA College Republicans, the UVA Law Republicans, and other groups, they said, we'll vote for you, but we're not going to go on a limb for you. So
That's brutal.
Yeah,
That is brutal.
Yep.
It was that clear-cut, the conversation?
Yep. And I made the decision. I'm like, if I want to win, I need vocal supporters. So that's why I put the R next to my name.
When you started hearing that, did you get demoralized initially? Because I'm demoralized hearing that just now. Or
Well-
you're just like, this is politics.
It's just how politics is, I support third parties, 100%.
Me too.
I voted Libertarian many times. I voted for Joe Jorgensen last year. in
Much of your
2020.
ideology is libertarian.
It is.
Why is the party so far behind? The Libertarian Party.
Well,
It's almost not. It's almost like why? I'm curious because you follow this stuff.
Well, with Governor candidate Sarvis, almost a decade ago, there was a lot of Republicans who were upset because they said that because he ran, Ken Cuccinelli lost.
Okay.
And it really killed the Libertarian Party movement in Virginia. And actually last year when I actually was planning to run as a Libertarian, and I called the Libertarian Party headquarters in Richmond, it went to Google Voice. It went to the Google voicemail. Every time I called them, it's like, how can you have a state party and you have a candidate who wants to run under your banner?
And they don't respond back?
They never return my calls. So I said, I can't win if there's a party who can't even return my phone calls.
Which libertarian is the highest profiled candidate? What was Ross Perot?
Ross Perot, he was 92. He was an independent.
So Ross Perot was strictly, I'm doing a quick
He got
Google
over
search.
20%.
Yeah, so Perot he did not run as a libertarian, is that right?
No, he did not.
Okay, so Perot ran strictly as a billionaire independent. Which libertarian has made it, and if you don't know, I completely understand. I'm putting you on the spot here. But I love talking about stuff like this, and you have a mind for politics, and certainly your business is as a historian. Which libertarian candidate has made it the furthest in politics?
Well, yeah, I was hoping that Jo Jorgensen would make it further last year, but she didn't. She only got like 1% of the vote. I believe Gary Johnson ran twice, and I believe
Gary
the second
Johnson
time-
ran for president.
Yes, on the
Okay.
Libertarian ticket. And
Right,
I believe
right.
the second time he did better. 2 miles, but hey, we'll have to fact check that one.
Yeah. Marquis says Ken dug his own grave, though. That's the man's opinion. He dug his own grave.
Well, I've met Ken Cuccinelli multiple times, and actually I saw him 3 months ago when he was rallying for Pete Snyder, so I got to see him this year as well.
What'd you think of Pete's campaign?
Well, Pete could have done a lot of things differently. I certainly came out against him after initially supporting him somewhat, because I invited his staffers to my campaign events, and I said, hey, well, he's one of the many governor candidates, and he's also a fellow resident of Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Let's bring him in. But he didn't show up to any of my events. His staffers didn't show up to any of my events. And I called him out. I said, hey, he's not protesting against Nikiah Walker, and he's given speeches about it on the campaign stump, but he's not fighting on his own home turf. And when I said that, his staffers and some supporters came up to me and said, could you take those messages down? That makes us look bad. I'm like, well, instead of telling me to take these messages down, why don't you talk to your candidate and tell them, how can we help get your message out? How can we support you? If they had came out with that message, I wouldn't have come out the way I did. But because they attacked me, I had to attack back. And when Pete Snyder, at the April 20th Madison County Republican Women Meeting, he came out and told me to put my cell phone down. I was recording him with this phone.
Yeah.
And he said, put it down. And I complied, just to not make a scene and to be respectful, but it showed his true colors. You can't have a governor candidate who advocates for transparency when they tell a fellow down ticket candidate to not record them while giving a speech. I mean, to do that was very revealing. And frankly, it's the reason why you lost. I posted that video on Twitter and Facebook and other social media outlets.
Yeah, it went viral.
Yeah. And I had folks who said I had Pete Snyder as my second choice or first choice, and it pushed him down to seventh. That caused them to lose the campaign.
Comments coming in. Paul McCarter is watching the show. Paul, he says on the Libertarian, best known Libertarian now is it Justin Amash?
Justin Amash.
Amash, but he was not elected as an L. And
Correct.
he said Gary Johnson, which you brought up, Gary Johnson has the top 2 best finishes for a Libertarian presidential candidate. Then other folks have said they liked Gary Johnson. Some folks are saying a vote for the Libertarian. Okay, what do you make of this comment here? This is from Grayson. A vote for the Libertarian Party is a wasted vote. I don't buy that.
I mean, no vote's a wasted vote.
That's how I feel.
We should be encouraging everyone to vote. I mean, no matter what other party. And there's other parties too. There's a Green Party. There's others. But the Libertarian Party is the largest third party.
Of the third party. The third party.
Yeah. It's the only third party that has
Any kind of real traction.
Yeah, and it's the only third party that has a presidential candidate on all 50 states on the ballot.
Right. So if we want a third-party system, the likelihood of that happening is much greater with the Libertarian Party than any of the other ones. And I don't know how you guys feel, the viewers. I have an idea how he's going to feel, but I'm going to throw him the question regardless. Having the third party is good for American politics.
I think it is. And you know what? Donald Trump actually gave a speech over 10 years ago. He said that he would welcome a third-party candidate to the presidential stage. Now, it's unfortunate that Donald Trump, once he became the Republican nominee, did not invite Gary Johnson. He did not invite Joe Jorgensen to the stage. So he was hypocritical in that sense, that he said one thing, but then he acted another way once he became the nominee and once he was within grasp of power. And that's the problem with the two-party system, is that Republicans and Democrats, they want to stuff out the little guy. And how do we reverse course? Ranked choice voting. And my opponent, Sally Hudson,
Is a huge proponent.
very huge proponent.
You like it too.
I support it as well. And the things, the GOP convention was ranked choice voting.
You should explain ranked choice voting to the viewers. It's still a new concept.
Yeah, so what happens when you have ranked choice voting, such as we did with the Republican convention on May of this year, is that you have multiple candidates. For governor, we had 7. So with each round of voting, one person is knocked off. So after the first round, the person in 7th place is removed, and then their votes are allocated to the other 6 candidates. 6 goes down, then there's 5, then there's 4, then 3, then 2, then 1. So there's multiple rounds of voting. And yes, it is more complicated than the other voting process, but it's
The most democratic.
yeah, but it's definitely a democratic process.
Yes, democratic process, which this is what this is all about.
Yeah.
What do you make of Mayor Nikia Walker encouraging her followers to shotgun vote her?
Explain that further.
Only vote her and nobody else. There's 2 spots open for council
Okay.
in the general election. There's 4 people running. You got 2 independents, Nikia Walker and Yaz Washington. You got 2 Democrats, Juan Diego Wade and Brian Pinkston. The 2 Democrats, Juan Diego Wade and Brian Pinkston, have formed a strategic alliance. The 2 Democrats, Wade and Pinkston, want to win the 2 open seats on council, so they formed a strategic partnership. Nikia, Mayor Walker, is saying to her followers, and she has quite a few of them, shotgun vote me. Just vote me and nobody else in the general election. 2 spots can be voted for. She says, only cast 1 vote and only for me.
Very interesting strategy.
What do you think of that strategy?
Well, she's free to make a statement like that to her supporters. I mean, there's folks such as Amanda Chase. She said during the GOP convention, only vote for me. So I mean,
That's shotgun voting.
yeah. So it's not unprecedented. There's other folks who do this too.
But that's the antithesis of democratic voting.
I agree. I mean, you should vote for multiple choices rather than sticking with just one. And actually, if you vote for just one person in ranked choice voting, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah, and ranked choice voting doesn't make a difference. With the voting we have now, it does make a difference.
It does.
It does make a difference.
And what I support is that what we should do is that we should institute ranked choice voting on the local level first. Have by counties and cities. So we'll introduce it on the local level, and then at a later time, then we can pass law in General Assembly and make it statewide.
Paul McArcher, ranked choice voting was used in Maine for the first time in a presidential election. He also says, although the Libertarian Party is currently imploding as more extreme members are pushing back against the more realistic, pragmatic members. That's unfortunate. All right, so we're 50 minutes in. Tell the folks why they should vote for you.
Many reasons. I am the guy to change things here in Virginia. I believe in Virginia. I love Virginia. I love Charlottesville. That's why I'm on a show that says I love Seaville, because I do love my own town. Unlike the mayor, unfortunately.
Okay.
As we remember from her poem.
Yeah.
But I'm fighting for a better way of life.
You spoke out against that poem.
Oh, I did.
Few did. I spoke out against that poem. Why did you choose to speak out against it?
Because it was reprehensible. To have a mayor who's supposed to represent all individuals in the city, including myself, she represents me. But then to say that she hates her own city, I think that should disqualify you from being in office. And I called for her to resign because I thought it was reprehensible. I mean, we got national attention from it. It was on Fox News and many other media outlets.
It was global.
Oh,
attention.
Well, even global.
Yeah,
okay.
Global attention.
And that's not the type of attention we want here in Charlottesville.
I would agree with that. I 100% agree with that.
And I want to be the face of positive change here. And there's a lot of work to do. One thing that I would do is limit the executive power of the governor to lock down businesses during another health pandemic. Let's make it a law. Let's even put it in the Virginia Constitution. Say the governor could do this no longer. Let the business decide when they can open and when they can close during a health crisis. Let's not give that power to the governor or even to local governments. I'll restrict it from them too.
Lisa asked, how does the guest feel about the skilled games, the slot machines you see in gas stations?
I used to live in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Actually, when I helped out with Senator Rand Paul's campaign. I also spent time living in California, and I've been in 8 different states, and I've seen, gambling and slots. Personally, I don't gamble.
Okay.
I've never done slots, even when I was living in Vegas. It wasn't my scene. But I believe in individual choice. If someone wants to gamble, that's their prerogative. Let them do it. So I'm for legalizing it, and letting folks choose to do that. And amongst other things, such as marijuana. You could choose to smoke if you'd like. And in fact, I think the age should be lowered to 18.
Because you say if you can serve your country, you should be able to buy a joint when it becomes legal.
Yeah. Alcohol should be legal when you're 18. Let's say screw this federal government. We're not going to take your highway funds anymore.
I am torn on this topic. I see your point. If you can be in the service and go to Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever it may be, and risk your life on the line, and you're 18 years old, but you can't buy a 12-pack of beer, or you can't buy an 1/8 of cannabis, that seems hypocritical.
Absolutely is.
It seems hypocritical, and it seems like you're using Americans. That's what it seems like to me. What else would you...
In other countries, the legal drinking age is much lower.
Yeah.
I mean, you can drink when you're 14 or when you're 60. It depends on which country you're in.
Sure.
So we have a very high drinking age here in America. And for those who haven't traveled outside of the country, they don't realize that. But I really encourage folks who are undecided on this issue to do their research and compare the drinking age of the United States to that of other countries. And it was actually Mothers Against Drunk Driving that lobbied President Reagan to raise the drinking age. So, let's think about it. Before, it wasn't that long ago. It was over 50 years ago. The drinking age was 18. So we can always return back to that status.
Let me ask you a question. Double side of the coin, and we'll end on this. We've outlined what you would do if you win and why people should elect you. What happens if you don't win? What do you do?
Very good question.
Have you thought about it?
I have.
Okay.
I'm a realist.
Okay.
There's winners and losers. There's no in between. I don't get half a delegate seat.
That's right.
I don't get half a vote.
Yeah. And you've admitted it's an uphill climb.
It is an uphill climb.
Okay.
But there's multiple objectives. I get to travel around the state. Earlier this week, I was with Glenn Youngkin in Loudoun County because I was with other House of Delegate candidates because this is Team GOP. We are trying to win back the General Assembly. We're trying to win back the state. It's not just about the 57th District. This is about winning back our Commonwealth of Virginia. So that's what I'm fighting for.
So you feel like even if you lose, you win in some ways because you're getting these platform points out into the news cycle, shows like this, and becoming and having the platform points be more on the tip of people's tongues.
Yeah, and I'm representing people who feel they have not been represented in 16 years. I've been the voice of the unheard. And it's important that I advocate for them because there's folks out there who are scared to speak out on conservative principles. They feel that if they put up a yard sign, that it could be smashed and torn down by Antifa. I have my Save Our Monuments bumper stickers, which I had made. But some of my supporters, they said they don't want to put these on because they're afraid that their car will get smashed.
You got some cojones printing those stickers and putting them on your vehicle.
Hey, I took it to the White House in Washington, D.C. I was there in White House last month.
So is that on your car right now?
It is on my car right now.
That sticker?
Alongside with my Glenn Youngkin sticker as well.
Has your car been vandalized?
No, it actually has not.
Okay.
So there is hope, folks. You can have my bumper sticker, and you can have your car intact, but it's at your own risk.
Well, let me Andrew Hamilton. You heard the last part of that. So we went longer. We went an hour here, and some of the stuff you say certainly, I can relate to. Some of the stuff I'm unsure of. As we've identified, it's an uphill battle. Regardless, I respect your willingness to try. I respect your willingness to compete, and I respect the courage it takes to put yourself out there and run for something at any capacity, because that is hard to do. That's hard to do.
Well, win or lose, I'm fearless. I'm going to be on the ballot, and in spite of the fact that members of Antifa want me to drop out, it ain't happening, Antifa.
Wow. There you go, Philip Andrew Hamilton. I will reach out to Sally Hudson to see if we can do a forum. I would expect that her team is probably saying, do not do that forum, because it would have more for you to gain than for her to gain, with her being the incumbent. Still, I will reach out to Sally Hudson and say, will you do a forum on this network with Philip Andrew Hamilton and yourself as we get closer to the general election?
Great. And one last thing I'll mention too.
Please.
Because I do want to be out and speaking to the voters, and I do want to do public forums. The publication Virginia Right wants to host a forum between Sally Hudson and I at the Three Notch Brewery on September 11th, the 20-year anniversary of the terrorist attacks.
Okay.
So if she agrees, that'd be great. The NAACP,
you have responded to that request, and you said, yes, I'm ready.
Yes, I am indeed ready.
She has not responded to that request.
Not yet.
I would bet. Yeah. I would bet you're not going to get a response from Sally Hudson for that forum.
Now, the NAACP on October 11th, exactly a month later, they also want to host a debate between her and I. But for now, I have declined it, and this is the reason why. Because they're having it online only. We're getting out of the pandemic. It's to the disadvantage of the voters if we have an online-only forum. I want the voters in the room asking me and Delegate Sally Hudson questions, because they deserve to know. So I've been lobbying the national NAACP, and I actually just called their office a couple days ago, telling them, allow your local chapters to have in-person political forums and debates.
And what do they say?
They said they're going to get back to me.
So that's a no.
But I'm going to give them till August to make a decision, and if not, we're going to go ahead and do the virtual forum, but I'm trying to put the pressure on the
Did
NAACP.
she agree to the virtual forum?
I do not know yet.
Okay. If I was running her campaign, I would say don't do any of these. Seriously. Because if she does do any of these forums, what it does is it creates more of a news story, and the side effect is raising your profile. I see why you would want to do these forums. There's no doubt why you would want to do these forums. Time will tell. We'll see if she responds. I mean, she's going to respond regardless to the email, but I would think that she's going to say no.
And if she does not, we are still going to be on anyways. Virginia Wright told me that if she declines, we're going to do a forum. We'll have members of the Charlottesville community come up on the stage and ask me questions, and we're going to make it a forum, like a town hall.
Okay, that would be a town hall, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the show. Thank you for the time.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, my pleasure, my pleasure. We'll get you back on as we head closer to the general. Guys, Philip Andrew Hamilton, find him, the website?
HamiltonForVA.com.
HamiltonForVA.com if you want more on Philip Andrew Hamilton. That's the show. It's a Friday. Happy 4th of July to you guys. Thank you to Philip Andrew Hamilton for joining us on the program, Judah Wickhauer as well. My name is Jerry Miller. It's the I Love CVille show. We're back on Monday with Paul McCarter. Paul, I may reach out to you to see if we can get your beautiful 7/8 Jen in the mix as well. Paul and Jen were instrumental in keeping the 5th grade at Mountain View Elementary, and the 5th grade now is being kept in the elementary school Mountain View as opposed to being shuffled to a middle school because of some density issues on the south side of Charlottesville, south side of Albemarle County. That's the program. It's the I Love Seville show. My name is Jerry Miller. Have a good 4th of July. Remember the significance of the 4th of July, please. Please remember the significance. When you're doing those 12-ounce curls or you're getting some meat off the grill, remember the significance of the 4th of July, and as always, keep it local. Thank you for joining us today. Take care.